Throughout history, from one end of the earth to the other, people have reported seeing apparitions, ghosts, and phantoms. Many accounts of such sightings eventually took the form of folk tales, and those tales, often broadly embellished, fostered a popular impression of terrifying specters wafting like smoke through countryside and town, infecting the very atmosphere. Often enough, an aura of evil or grim vengeance seemed to surround these phantoms. They were envisioned as chain-rattling night creatures, bent on redressing some injustice committed during their lifetime. That was stuff with which to scare small children and raise more than a few adult hairs in the bargain. A large number of phantom encounters involve some sort of life crisis, most frequently the ultimate crisis of death. One morning in December 1881, a man was dressing in his home in Cheltenham when he sensed a strong presence in the room. He glanced around, but saw no one. However, in his mind's eye, he vividly perceived every detail of his old friend's face and form. He then went to his wife's room to share what had transpired, expressing his fear that his friend might be deceased. Throughout the day, the man and his wife discussed the incident with increasing worry. The following day, he received a letter from his friend's brother informing him that his friend had passed away at 8:45 the previous morning. This was precisely the time when the event had occurred in his dressing room. Another significant occurrence transpired on 8 September 1855, involving a young boy who would later rise to the rank of captain in the British Army. At that time, he was a schoolboy residing with his parents near Edinburgh, Scotland. The family had a military background, with the eldest son, aged 19, serving as a lieutenant in the 7th Royal Fusiliers during the Crimean War at Sebastopol. One night, the boy awoke to find his older brother in his room, seemingly kneeling and surrounded by a bright, phosphorescent mist. The boy initially convinced himself that he was merely imagining things. He thought the sight was just a beam of moonlight reflecting off a towel draped over a chair. However, the vision remained, gazing at him with a look that was both loving and sorrowful. It appeared so vivid that the boy jumped out of bed and approached the window. To his dismay, there was no moonlight. The night was dark and heavy with rain. Terrified, he fled from his room. As he glanced back, he noticed that the apparition bore a horrific wound on the right temple, from which blood was flowing. When he recounted the incident to his father, the older man scoffed and advised him not to speak of such nonsense. More than 2 weeks later, the family received the tragic news of the elder son's death. He had been killed while storming a Turkish stronghold. Subsequently, they discovered that a bullet had struck Oliver in the right temple, exactly where the wound had manifested to the boy. Furthermore, the young lieutenant had written to his younger brother, expressing his low spirits and poor health, to which the boy had responded by encouraging him to remain optimistic, jokingly adding that if anything were to happen to him, he should make an appearance in the old room where they had shared many cozy conversations at night. On the 3rd of January 1840, a woman from Exeter, England, was seated at her dining room table, reading the Bible by candlelight. When she looked up, she noticed her brother sitting across the table from her. The situation seemed completely ordinary, except for the fact that her brother was currently serving on a Royal Navy ship in the South Atlantic. Although she felt agitated, the woman managed to remain composed, possibly reassured by the gentle expression on her brother's face. Neither of them spoke, but the woman maintained her gaze on her brother for several moments, until his figure gradually dimmed and disappeared from her sight. Understanding the implications of this occurrence, she quickly wrote down what she had witnessed, along with the date, in the flyleaf of her Bible. A month later, she received news that her brother had perished at sea. His death coincided precisely with the moment she had seen him sitting across from her. On the evening of January the 3rd, 1856, a woman residing in Camden, New Jersey, was startled awake to discover her son standing in the doorway of her bedroom, gazing intently at her. His presence was utterly implausible, as he was supposed to be commanding a steamboat on the Mississippi River over 1,000 miles to the west. While she was initially shocked to see her son unexpectedly, she was even more unsettled by the sight of his face and head, which were horrifically disfigured and covered in a rough bandage. He was dressed in a soiled white nightshirt that she did not recognize, although she later described it as resembling a tunic. The following morning, she recounted her experience to her husband and 4 daughters, but her family dismissed her account, believing she had merely had a vivid nightmare. However, nearly 2 weeks later, the news she had feared arrived. Her son had died in a steamboat collision, with a part of the ship's mast falling on him and fracturing his skull. His death coincided almost exactly with the moment his mother had witnessed his apparition, and at the time of his passing, he was dressed precisely as she had seen him. At dusk one evening during the mid-19th century, a woman and her son were sitting quietly behind their home in Clapham, England. There was nothing in their environment that hinted at anything out of the ordinary. The hour was calm and pleasant, with the diminishing light casting long shadows over a gently sloping lawn that extended from the house to a wall and gate. However, in an instant, their family's lives would be altered by what they perceived to be a ghostly encounter. As they were talking, the son suddenly shifted in his chair and pointed across the lawn. His elder sister was standing at the gate. Their astonishment was warranted. Ellen, the elder of the family's 2 daughters, had been sent away to Brighton in southern England by her parents in an attempt to quell her passion for an unsuitable romance. Although the girl had been profoundly unhappy away from her home and her suitor, Ellen's mother understood that her husband would be displeased by their daughter's premature return against his wishes. The mother instructed her son to go and tell Ellen to come into the house quickly and not mention anything to his father. The young man attempted to rise from his chair, but sank back down after testing his weight on an ankle he had sprained earlier that day. The mother called for her other daughter from the house and instructed her to fetch her sister, reiterating that no one say anything to their father, as he must not know anything about her return. The mother was thinking that she'd send Ellen away again in the morning. Mary, a lively and spirited girl, dashed across the lawn and through the garden gate. She called out to Ellen and was confused when her sister did not reply. She shouted again. Without a word, Ellen turned down a path that led away from the house, her dark blue cloak flowing behind her. Mary ran after her, following the path across the countryside. Eventually, she caught up and reached out to grasp her sister. Mary asked her where she was headed and why she had returned, but the words got lodged in her throat. She realized that she could not grasp her sister's arm. Her hand seemed to pass right through the flesh and bone. She felt nothing at all. A dreadful chill coursed through her as she observed Ellen silently turn away once more and faded from view. Numb, the girl returned to the garden where her mother and brother were waiting. She recounted the events that had transpired. The mother, now pale, rushed to her husband and relayed the tale to him. He shared her belief that some misfortune had struck their elder daughter. The following day, their gravest fears were validated. The night before, at the precise moment her image had manifested at the residence in Clapham, their anguished daughter had plunged into the sea and perished. Let's explore more of the strange, the ominous, and the mysterious, from hauntings to real-life encounters. Every mystery has a story. Every legend has a grain of truth. Whether you are here for the ghost stories, the cryptid sightings, or baffling mysteries, Unsolved crimes and chilling mysteries, you found your new home for all things strange. See you soon for the next episode.